in Vegas, you know, again, Mr. Gray, he had a trip coming up and he was like, I'm going to go to Vegas. You want to go? It's like, yeah, why not? And it was for him. I was just going along. I was there for support, just hanging out, whatever. And we went out there, and the first night that we landed, right off the plane, and I was not in any shape or form to be meeting people and shaking hands, you know, like to make that impression. And got off the plane, and the first couple people I met was DJ Silver, DJ DeVille, and DJ Jeff Retro.
Ladies and gentlemen,
you are now about to witness
the journey that is the Life Choices podcast.
Yeah!
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode here on the Life Choices podcast. This week, I am welcoming DJ Chanel Clair.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. DJ Chanel Clair has her own brand, which is her, right? How many years ago did we make the venture into the DJ land?
So I was bartending. That's how I initially got into it for years. When I had my daughter in 2010, I got my first bartending job around 2012, I want to say. And I did that for a while. And then I kind of, you know, I did it for so long that I wanted to do something else. And the craft of DJing started to become really interesting to me because I saw how it changed the psychology of the night. Between bartending, I kind of knew, depending on what DJ was going to be, you know, slow night, busy night, seeing how the music affected people at my bar, like, oh, that was really interesting to me. So on my nights off from bartending, I would go follow a couple of my friends that were DJing that night and hang out in the booth and just kind of watch. And one of my friends, he turned to me and he's like, why don't you do this? I laughed. I was like, yeah, right. And then one of my bartending managers, on a Sunday fun day at Cabo Flats back in the day, he also turned to me and was like, why don't you get into that?
So two separate people at different times had the idea that Chanel Clair could possibly become DJ Chanel Clair.
And I laughed in both of their faces.
and look at you now.
I was like, you're out of your mind. I'm like, what would even make you say that? You know, like, I have no musical background whatsoever. Nobody in my family does. You know, I was in my mid-20s at the time, and it was just kind of like such an off-brand idea. I was like, how would I even get into something like that?
Yeah, the knowledge wasn't there as to how to get the first few steps into a world of nightlife DJing.
Well, and I wasn't familiar with, like, a lot of, you know, I didn't go out a lot in, you know, I had my daughter young. I had my daughter when I was 19. And then when I first got my, like, first actual real job, if you will, in, like, a martini lounge, I was 20. So I didn't really have the exposure to a lot of, like, I didn't go to festivals. I didn't see a lot of DJs. I didn't go to crazy nightclubs in Miami, you know, with a fake ID. Like, I didn't do any of that stuff. So it was a world that I really didn't know anything about. I just knew that we had DJs when I bartended. And I knew based off of what DJs, how my night was going to go. Like, I was either going to love it and have a lot of fun, or I was going to sit there and be like.
It's so interesting. Like, without even knowing that you were going to have a future in becoming a DJ, you knew right away as the bartender, almost like the psychology behind being a DJ. You knew how the crowd could get shifted into their mood. Mm-hmm. You knew how that would then transfer into them drinking or not drinking, or how much they're going to be drinking. Yep. And just the whole atmosphere would depend on what that individual is doing, which is spinning the music mm-hmm. and creating an energy, creating a vibe. And then everything else that kind of came in after that is the result of your evening.
Basically, it's, you know, it was kind of like who was, you know, it was based off the music they were playing, the vibe they were setting, you know, some nights, like if it was ladies' night, like was it the DJ that knew how to cater to the ladies? And if it was an older crowd, you know, like do they know what they're doing? Because as bartenders, we would get the complaints. Like, hey, go tell the DJ to change it. I'm like, I can't, but I could get you another drink. Like, you know, like I can only do so much here, you know? Like,
I'm not in charge of this shit.
Yeah, I'm not in charge of this. Like, you know, and like back in the day, I remember one particular point, I was bartending and this girl was at my bar and she was crying. And I mean, like, bawling her eyes out. And I was like, here's a shot on me, you know, like, what is wrong? She's complaining about her boyfriend, this and that, all kinds of mess. And then all of a sudden, the DJ changed, like he transitioned into another song, She picked up her head from the bar, her eyes lit up. This is my song. And she like started screaming and ran to the dance floor. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Like, I've been trying to console this girl for the past like 37 minutes of my life.
Yeah.
And like, there was nobody else here, and I felt bad for her, you know? And all of a sudden, she just completely, I mean, everything was fine.
The music changed her whole mood.
The music changed everything, and she did not get off the dance floor for majority of that night.
It's so interesting. We've had DJ Markham and Nick Flash. And I'm trying to think of who else. We've had at least those two DJs on the show before. And it's funny because all of us agree that music can absolutely change your entire mood.
Oh, it's a complete therapy.
Yeah. And it can even bring you back to that time in which you remember having so much fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
I remember when I was doing a lot of drugs. And I was in my 20s, because I no longer do a lot of drugs. But
a lot.
Made for kids TV. This isn't.
That's what they call micro dosing.
Right. No, I haven't gotten into the microdosing yet, but my friends all microdose the mushroom, the chocolate bars, which is kind of funny. Yeah, the chocolate bar. It's kind of funny. But I used to go to the bars all the time on the weekends and do a lot of pills and dance my ass off. And it didn't matter what the week had done to me back then. I knew Friday night I was going to go to Atomic, I was going to get a pill, and I was going to listen to my favorite DJ. I was going to dance for 6 fucking hours, and I was going to feel amazing. And I looked forward to that. And then, there's a period of time in my life where things changed and, wasn't really going out. And then, I moved to Florida, and then the going out came around again. And anytime I heard like one of those songs come on, no matter what I was doing, it would usually uplift my soul, because I'd just be like instantly transported back to that time in which I was like 21.
It was nostalgic for you. It triggered like those memories and that core. Like, music has that thing that I don't think, a lot of people do realize, but sometimes they don't, that it creates like a imprint, like a stamp, You remember where you were when you heard that song for the first time, or a certain song made you feel some type of way. Like music, I didn't realize how much music played a role in my life until I got into DJing, as funny as that sounds, because when I look back at it, my mom was like, Chanel, you were constantly listening. She's like, I used to have to ground you. And it's true. I forgot about that. She's like, you were constantly either singing or you were listening to music so loud, I thought your eardrums were going to burst. Like back in the day when the hurricanes hit, and this is back before iPods, it's still CDs players. And I only had like 3 or 4 CDs, and on repeat. We didn't have electricity. So as long as that battery stayed in that CD player, guess what? Like, I wasn't listening to a damn thing that was going on.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that until I got further into DJing, when people are like, well, what's your background? And I was like, none. And then, people were like, you didn't listen to music when you were a kid? It's like, well, yeah, of course. Did you play any instruments? And I'm like, well, I did teach myself like the first couple of strings of Beethoven on the piano because I was bored. And I just started messing around with the keyboard I stole from my brother.
Yeah.
And then I started kind of piecing little things together. And I'm like, I didn't realize it, but there always was like a little a musical influence.
The seeds were planted a very long time ago without ever knowing that it was actually happening.
It was never pushed on me. As I said, I never played an instrument, and I never went to any kind of musical class except for what I had to do in school. So I didn't, you have people that are like, they're a DJ because they've been playing piano for 12 years, or their parents are this and that, and I'm...
Then I have to imagine, because you weren't into the genre at a younger age. Once you decided to start kind of going after this dream of being a DJ, did you then start diving into the history of DJing and like which DJs kind of like you kind of leaned more towards or got inspired by?
I think definitely, as before I started leaning towards DJs, I was kind of diving back into the different genres. Like, I didn't realize that my brother was 7 years older than me. So he was listening to old school, like he was listening to Tupac and things like that. And I was, 7, he was 14. And then I found like that I was stealing his CDs because I didn't have any, right? I only had like Britney Spears, and I was like, I'm getting sick of these things. Like, what's Bone Thugs and Harmony? Like, let me put that in.
Yeah, Bone Thugs.
He would come home, he'd be, Chanel. I'm like,
I feel like he might be.
I didn't do it.
He might be closer to, no, he's probably younger than me. I'm trying to do the math with all the numbers you've already said. But anyhow, he's a bit younger than me, but like Bone Thugs and Harmony was like when I was 17.
He was born in the early 80s. I was born in 90.
Right.
So it's like, but it was just, as I said, there was always something different coming from his room than my room. And so I'd sit there and pay a little more attention, And I liked that music more. And I remember getting gifted, it was one of Eminem CDs. I think it was like my 10th, 11th birthday, something like that. And it had the big explicit sticker right on top of that CD. Like, if you know what I'm talking about, that was like, parents were like, burn them. Like, people were stomping on them. They were totally against it. And I got that for one of my birthdays. And I was unwrapping it. My brother saw it and he goes, absolutely not.
Oh.
And took it out of like, I had like 5 or 6 CDs. Took it out of it. He's like, no, she's not listening to that.
Really?
Of course, and I was stomping my feet, throwing a fit. I was like, give it back. You know, it's mine.
You were probably swearing.
Oh, absolutely.
It wasn't like, oh, please give it back.
No.
Motherfucker, give me that shit back.
Like, right now. You know what? I was like, I'm going to get it back. He goes, what does that mean? I'm like, you'll see. Sure enough, I got that CD back.
That's awesome.
Like, I know you're going to have to leave your room at some point. I'll find it. And I did. And, you know, but I even said it. I was like, either one way or another, I'm going to hear it. I'm going to hear it through the walls because you're playing it, or you're going to give it to me. He didn't give it to me, so I just still took it. But
took it anyways. I mean, Eminem, we can all agree on how absolutely phenomenal Eminem is. He broke down fucking walls for everybody.
Absolutely.
He's a fucking...
But it's funny that I started to get, you know, obviously Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, that was always a thing, especially for my age. But I definitely started to like...
But there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
You know, like there's a lot of like stigma, like when people are like, oh, you listen to NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. And I can admit, like, no, I didn't. Like, I wasn't into boy bands at that time. But they were good musicians nonetheless. Whether it was an individual who was like a solo artist or a group of people that were brought together by a producer who thought, hey, we can make a lot of money by putting these 4 people together and make a lot of hits. You talk to anybody in the general population, pop music is that because it's popular. People fucking loved it.
Absolutely.
For whatever reason.
Well, it was the performance and everything. And it was, you know, it's the, you know, I mean, you know, it's the Taylor Swifts and the Justin Biebers and stuff like that. Like back in the day, it was NSYNC and all that. But even for me, being that age and being, you know, a young girl, I was bored.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to hear something else. And then I was like, okay, you know, and I started like, as soon as I could, you know, as I said, stealing CDs, or he started burning me CDs, so I would stop taking his. So, and I still have a whole collection of all the CDs that he burnt me with his handwriting on it.
Yeah.
And like, that's what started to really that's where my music knowledge started to kick in, you know, because when I started DJing, people are like, hopefully you know enough about music. Like, you can't just know what's on the radio, you know, and that was one thing that I felt confident in. Everything that I wasn't confident in, I was confident in my music knowledge because of how much studying I was doing without even realizing I was doing it at a young age. Because
I've loved music. I think most people have my whole life. But you never know that knowledge that you actually have until you look back at what you were doing as a young person.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, it's one of those things I really had to sit down and kind of like, you know, circle back to. And I'm like, I remember actually printing out lyrics to songs that I really liked. And I would print them out because like old school, print them out so I could read it. I was a nerd in school. I
just love how you say old school. It's just the way it was for us back then.
Yeah.
And I am a fair bit older than you, but you still were.
We didn't have iPhones where you could, you know, and just like, you know, what are the lyrics to this? We didn't have stuff like that. So it's like you had to look up, you know, what CD it was. Sometimes if you had a CD, you could open up the catalog inside of it and it would give it to you. Like that, you know what I mean? It was a completely different, and it's crazy to see it from back then to now, how it's changed. I mean, I'll be 33 next month. And it's, you know, from when I was, say, 13, you know, in 20, it's just insane how it's like, it's all completely changed. And that goes hand in hand, too, with like the old school DJs that kind of, I know, have a certain feel for not liking how the new school DJs can work. Because back then, you had crates, you had your vinyls. And like, I've never done that. So I can't speak on it out of experience, but I absolutely respect it. Because I can't imagine, you know, by the time you have to get there, set up, have everything, flip your records, make sure you know what you're doing, all while carrying the crowd, while the needles are jumping on the decks and everything. And now DJs, we come in with a, you know, little USB or a laptop, we plug in, and we have all the music, you know, at our fingertips. You know, yo, you want a song? Give me a second. Let me get Wi-Fi. I'll download it. That's like, it's, you know, that's like a horse and buggy to a Tesla. Like, it's insane how that's...
I love the analogy. It's 100% true.
But because nobody understands the hard work that really went into, you know, what created what we have now. And a lot of generations won't understand it. But it's like one thing, like when I got into DJing, is I wanted to do it the right way, in a sense of like really respecting the craft and where it came from. And not just, look at me, haha, and I can jump up and down and I can play songs, great. But like, do you actually understand what you're doing and the pathways that have been paved for you in order for you to get to this point? Before social media, before, YouTube, before TikTok,
before
and all
Google.
Before Google,
Yeah.
before iPhones. Like, you had back in the cassette tapes where they were trying to hand it out to people, be like, please give me a chance.
Yeah. No,
It's crazy.
I actually remember, because that's literally my generation, was the milk crate DJ.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because I loved watching them. I loved the whole process, the taking out the vinyl, putting it on. They have one headset on, listening to this record. They're doing something over here. And I'm not going to lie, I actually was one of those people that would not make fun of, just would downplay the new age DJ, because I grew up with the people that had to actually go to a record store, spend the afternoon going through records, finding the right ones, going into the booth that you could actually, listen to the record for a little bit before buying it, and doing it that way. And then all of a sudden, like one day I woke up and all of a sudden all the DJs are coming in with this, like, equipment looking like this, and they're just sitting down, and some of the DJs, all I would see them do is like plug, hit play, and fuck off.
Right.
And for me, I was just like, well, what the fuck's that about? That's, but then I became friends with people like DJ Markham and Nick Flash, and I've gone and I've watched them do their sets. And it's like, I even had someone, a friend of mine, come here that had I'm not gonna remember the piece of equipment that looks like this, but it was a mixer. And we, instead of going to a record store to flip through CDs, we went online and flipped through vinyl, I should say, online, to sample music for the intro and the outro of the Lyfe Choyces podcast music. And throughout all that process, I gained the respect for DJs once again, and understanding that no, it's not as simple as just showing up with a piece of with a computer and plugging in and going. There's still you still have to pull the music. You got to find it.
Absolutely.
You got to make your set. You've got to think about the crowd and the demographic that's in the bar that you might be working, or the festival that you're at. Like, there's a whole massive concept to the whole process of it that most people just don't get, because they're not understanding what it is the person's doing for them.
Absolutely. And a lot of it is that people either have the idea of what it is, so they just think like, oh, press play and that's it, or, they just haven't done their research, whatever. So, and then there's some people that really do get it, that they understand it, that it is a craft. It is, yes, times have changed, obviously. And as I said, I give my utmost respect to the DJs that really didn't have the resources that we have now. Like, it's completely different. And I know a lot of old school DJs that they won't switch over. And that's okay. They're like, this is how I started. This is what I like. I'm not getting on that. But then you have that issue because a lot of the new clubs, they're changing their, right when a new Pioneer CDJ comes out, then you got a new one in. And all of a sudden you show up, you're like, even my laptop's not compatible. That's how new it is. And now you're dealing with software issues and things like that. So it's like, it really is a whole different world when it comes to that stuff. And then, especially for, having to put in the time of research of music. I was fortunate enough when I started with a couple of DJs that absolutely gave their full faith in me, which was DJ Doug Poole, DJ Mr. Gray, and Tito. And those were the three that really, like, Tito sat down with me and taught me the Camelot wheel on a random day at Sushi Yama off of Clematis. And he came in, like, he was hurting from the night before. We all were. And he was just like, okay, study time, and he started explaining things to me. And Doug Poole and Mr. Gray, they took time out of their day with their families and what they were doing to help me understand, like, what is this equipment? How do I set it up? What am I doing? And then I came up with the question, how do I get music? Where do I, okay, this is a whole nother ball game, like, nobody hands you, here's your set to play for the next 4 years.
Here's your library of 10 million different records.
It's one of those things where it's like, we're going to start you off with a little bit, just so you can practice on it. But now it's up to you to figure out your research on the music that you want to play. Like, what genre, that's the other thing. That was a question. What kind of DJ do you want to be? You want to be a hip hop DJ, house DJ? You want to play this and that? I was like, open. I want to be open format. I didn't want to put myself in a little, like, niche where I wouldn't be able to cater to different venues, crowds, and learn more. I like to learn. I don't want to just sit there and be like, oh, sorry, only house. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people, that's all they want to do, and that's fine. But that wasn't me. And, like, that goes back to, Britney Spears and Eminem and all that stuff that I was listening to back in the day, like the mix of everything that I really genuinely enjoyed. So I sat there for, when I say hours, I mean hours on hours on hours, downloading music. And then once you download the song, you still have to learn the song. You still have to know what it sounds like, what key is it in, how does it work, does that, blend in with this, things like that. And it's nonstop.
We say it often, to become great at something, you must become obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And the truly greats have become obsessed with whatever it is that they were doing. The building of a brand, because you have the Chanel brand.
Yes.
Right?
The CCs.
Yeah, I love it. And then making it into the heart. How did that come to be? Because not everyone knows how to build a brand, and let alone building a brand on themselves.
Yeah, that was that came about when I started with trying to figure out, first of all, my DJ name. I went back and forth. I have like 4 different other personalities apparently that I was trying to figure out what DJ name I wanted to go with. My name, do I want to make up? I mean, because that's the fun part about it, is you can create a whole different persona and personality from, it doesn't have to be you, Mm-hmm. And I went back and forth with all kinds of names, and people are shutting them down left and right, or yeah, that's good. And finally it was just like, just go with Chanel Clair. I'm like, that's so long, and it's like, it's my name, could be cooler than that. And they're like, you should go with that. I was like, okay, fine. So let me see what kind of logo I could put around Chanel Clair. And I started reaching out to a couple, just different companies, like for graphic design and stuff like that. I can't take all the credit. I had a vision, but I definitely needed help, because I could not I had the idea, and just, it was not coming together. And I started, kind of drawing out a few things, like 2 C's, like together, overlapping. I'm like, can't do that at Chanel. I'll get sued in like 10 seconds. And like, what can I do to make it still Chanel Clair, but not like, And then I reached out to a graphic designer, and I kind of gave an idea. I said, what if we, a C, and we flip the other C, but make it like a hard, like, shape down, and make it almost like a diamond or a stone or something, because I wanted the symbol to also something, not just be girly. I didn't want it to be like Chanel with like a big heart over it, or I wanted it to be like a very neutral, like if I wanted to put it on a hat or a t-shirt, that men would be wanting to wear it and women would want to wear it, something that it goes for everybody. And I got back the stencil of this. We changed a few things in it, and I was like, that's it. And I trademarked it I filed the paperwork to trademark it within about a year. Or not a year, what am I saying? A week, and it took about 6 months to a year to finalize. And
you're lucky that you did it when you did, because I'm waiting on my motherfucking trademark that I started like 3 fucking years ago.
Yeah, it was an interesting, and everybody was like, you're spending that money to trade, and it was before I even knew if anything was going to happen with it. I was like, that's mine.
But that's a smart move, because trademarking is absolutely very important. Yes. I didn't think anyone out there had Lyfe Choyces besides myself. And sure enough, once I started doing stuff like 2.5 years ago, it's actually very, very common. Mm-hmm. It's quite a lot, not spelt the same way I have it. And that's why my trademark will be passed, because I've switched out the I's for Y's. But the amount of different podcasts that have the same name is out there. Whether or not they've been trademarked, I don't know, which is something interesting once I get my trademark, because then I will have to contact all of them. Only if they're close to the same 3 things that I've listed in my trademark search.
It's something, it's like, it falls between a certain line of like what it can be to be like fraudulent or not, but as I said.
But that's what we pay lawyers for.
Exactly.
Right. I don't need to worry about that, or even
I got the paperwork, I got the hats. I was like,
exactly.
And they look at timestamp too, like when did you start, when did this company start?
Right.
So it's like,
yeah.
I think officially I started with the CC logo and everything. I want to say it was 2016, 2017 was the idea, and I feel like I launched the hats and like everything officially in like 2018-ish.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I think.
No, I like it, because when I scroll through your Instagram and I see the different flyers that you've posted for different events, or even like you've even posted like stories, reels, I never remember each thing, your calendar of like this month, and it has like each week that, your West Palm, your Lauderdale, your wherever you might be, but then like the flyer of like you, and then like your logo in the background, like it's sharp. It's very eye-catching, and it's very bold. I want to say it's a bold, feminine, masculine symbol. Mm-hmm. So you hit all the things that you said you were actually looking for, because it's not dainty. Right. It's not like, oh, look at me, I'm whatever. But it's appealing to everybody. now I want to talk a little bit about something that you had brought up a little bit, is the aspect of being a female in what I would imagine for a very long time had been a male-dominant industry. As a female, starting a brand new career in an industry that's male-dominated, what was that like?
I already knew that I had a lot kind of to prove in a sense of being a bartender in a nightlife where I bartended, you know, in a lot of like the bigger places in the area. And then now transitioning over, as I said, to being a DJ was going to be that much harder because nobody's going to take me seriously. Because it's like just yesterday I was bartending, so today you're a DJ? Like, Chanel, you know, it's a lot.
Slow your roll.
Calm down. Like, you know, chill out. You still have to work Saturday type of thing. And I was like, yeah, I know. So I went in with him, and it was before the lights went down, and I told him I want to know if I do this, how to set up the equipment. I don't want there to be room for anybody to sit there and say that I don't know what I'm doing, or, you know, I just show up and smile and that's it. Because I already knew that I was getting heat for that. What's wrong with trying to learn something new? What's wrong with trying to evolve and do something different? That's shameful all of a sudden. And I left it alone. I didn't say anything, but I knew, like, kind of from that night on, I was like, this might be a little bit harder than I thought, you know.
Not the DJing part. Not the spinning of music. All the other shit that you're going to have thrown at you.
The politics that are going to come with it was going to be just as hard, if not harder.
More challenging.
More challenging than learning something that I've never done in my life. That was already challenging enough and scary enough. And then on top of that, I got people that before I even, you know, did anything, were already kind of like, okay, you know, like, oh, you're going to do this now. And I was like, you know what, whatever, fine. It's your opinion. We're all entitled to it. Go ahead. I've seen her since then. She's congratulated me. I said, thank you. As I said, no hard feelings, no nothing. But that really, like, kind of made me aware right from the jump, like, this is not going to be easy. And how bad do you really want to do it? Because I don't like being under the spotlight like that. I don't like the pressure. I've been more of a sensitive person. Like, I do have a tough demeanor. Like, I'm not somebody to push around, but I do have a heart and I do have feelings and I care. So it's like, do I really want, you know, half the city to be talking trash about me just so I could do this? And when I went to a couple of my friends that were, you know, they were giving me the time out of their day to come to my house to set up the equipment, to make sure I knew what I was doing. And I was like, do I really want to do this? And they're like, oh, you're not stopping now. Like, we're invested. We're in this. Like, you're going. I was like, okay, you know, but like, no buts. You're going to do it. All right, fine. And I stuck with it. And people, you know, eventually they came around. Not everybody, but.
Yeah, I've learned going after something that most people don't understand why you're doing it, and having the town talk shit about you, it's part of it. Yep. It is going to be part of your remembering the beginning days of going after your dream, and remembering all those people that said, oh, can't believe they're trying that, or they shouldn't do that. Like, why? It's like, okay, that's great. That's your thought and your opinion. I've always said this, opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one.
Yep.
But you can't get discouraged by it. You have to take that and put it into your pocket and say, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this, and I'm going to use that to become even better than they could even imagine I'm going to become.
Yeah. But it's like, it definitely played with my head a little bit, because to me it was like, you know, like, do I really want to get into this? You know, because once you're in it, you're in it. And that was just West Palm Beach. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if you can't, you know what I mean? Like, if I can't take the heat in West Palm Beach, I'm not going to go anywhere with this. So I did have to start building, you know, a thicker skin, but that also made me want to learn that much more and study that much harder and really learn from my mistakes. And trust me, there's been gigs and all kinds of stuff where it was like, it was bad.
Yeah, shit's gone wrong.
Of course, but it's just like with anything. It's, you know, I mean, as a chef, the first time that you used a knife, you've cut yourself.
I still cut myself.
Okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's not always like, you know, you do it and all of a sudden you're just like, it's a flow. Like, you got it. Like, even I've heard professional DJs, and I mean like superstar, the top names in the industry in Las Vegas and Nashville, all over. I've heard mess ups, and that's okay. That's because we're doing live music. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. You're doing a craft, and you're going to have error, but that leaves room for learning and things like that. So, but to me, I put myself on such a high, like, I wanted to be as good as I could possibly be without any knowledge, any practice, any background. And I got very discouraged very quickly because I didn't get it. Like, that fast, you know, to me, at least. Other people, they're like, you've learned this. I taught myself Ableton in 6 hours, and it took people months to learn Ableton, but I had to.
Ableton is
it's a software where you create music. You can either you can do you could do mixes on there, or Ableton is a software that people create songs. So that's like where they start the beats and things like that.
That's the machine I was talking about that a friend of mine brought over.
You're talking about it's not Ableton is technically it plays with Ableton in order to do that.
It works the software.
Yes.
Okay, right. So Ableton's the software that this machine would plug into to extract or put together the audio.
Basically, yeah. And it's like, it's because I was under a time crunch because I had to make a mix for a radio station and they needed it. And I was like, oh, and when I tell you I had Gray and Doug Poole on caller ID, I swear, these poor guys. No, I tell you, I FaceTime them in the middle of places. I'm like, why is this button blinking and why won't it stop? Please tell me why is the button blinking? And he's like, hold it, you know. I was like, oh, okay. But I learned.
Yeah.
But without them and without that support, I probably would have never have gotten to the point that I'm at now, ever.
That's awesome.
Because it was like, I felt like me against everybody until I had those few people behind me just kind of you know what I mean, giving you that little push, no, you got this.
But that's the way it's going to be. Anyone creating any type of business, any brand, anything at all, you will have those moments of fuck, I'm by myself. And realizing that you can't do it all by yourself is key. And finding the right people that can support you or help you when you need it, that is what's going to kind of elevate you to that next level of success.
Absolutely. And it's just, I mean, as I said, looking back at it as a scared girl that I was like, you know, I don't know if I could do this. I saw other female DJs doing it and I'm like, let me see, you know, and then you get into it and you're just like, damn, this is a lot of pressure.
I think it's with anything that you care about doing well, you have an idea of what it's going to take. But once you get into it, really fucking jump into it with your full energy, and then you realize all the different little technical things you got to learn, all the things that you have to deal with when it comes to other people. It just, all of a sudden, there's so much more on that mountain of shit that you have to take care of. And then you question yourself. You're like, fuck, did I bite off more than I can chew? Yeah. But then you can lean on those people that are in your circle to kind of help you through it. I had plenty of moments where I've been sitting at the laptop and having to take this audio file into something that can land onto my laptop that I can then extract to another platform, and it's asking me for making it into an M4A or whatever, and I'm looking at myself and I'm just like, what the fuck am I doing? I was the least likely to use technology ever 5 years ago. Right. And I had my people, even Markham and Nick Flash, I'd called them up. And I'd be like, listen, I'm trying to do X, Y, and Z. And then oh, no, it's very simple. Just relax. Just go to
First of all, relax.
No, 100%. That was
That's what they would tell me. They're like, first of all, breathe. You're literally about to hyperventilate. You need to calm the fuck down. And then I could walk you through this. They're like, okay, a couple of I was like, all right, what do I do? They're like, okay, slow.
Yeah, and that's all it was.
Because you'd be so
frustrated, angry. And it was just just hit the top button on your laptop, scroll down to where it says audio only, and then oh, look at that.
Exactly.
Thank you.
You're like, all right, everything okay now? You're like, yeah.
And then I make notes. I make notes every time because but then I fuck off for a couple months, go some weird place on a boat, and then I come back a month or two later and I got to do it again. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah, I've done that. I'll call, yes, Chanel. And I was like, remember that thing? They're like, right click, top right. I was like, okay, thank you. I was like, all right, have a good day.
But I've learned now to write it down. So when I have to take a screenshot of a video that's on my laptop, you got to hit command, control, boom. And all right, now I got it. But it's crazy shit. So becoming a very well-known DJ as a female in a male-dominated industry is kind of an uphill battle, or was a kind of uphill battle. You've been doing it for a while, and I see your social media. I see I basically, I could be wrong. Maybe there's more, but I see pretty much all over South Florida. I see Vegas, Tulum, actual Tulum, Mexico.
I haven't played in Tulum. I was able to travel to Tulum, but not played there. But I did play Cancun and Acapulco.
Wow, that's so cool. So you get to travel, really travel for your fucking craft.
Yeah, it's that was something again that I didn't really expect to fall into. I was hoping, obviously, it would always be a thing. You always want to kind of break out of your hometown or your home city, home state, whatever. And Vegas. Again, Mr. Gray, he had a trip coming up and he was like, I'm going to go to Vegas. You want to go? It's like, yeah, why not? And it was for him. I was just going along. I was there for support, just hanging out, whatever. And we went out there, and the first night that we landed, right off the plane, and I was not in any shape or form to be meeting people and shaking hands, you know, like to make that impression. And got off the plane, and the first couple people I met was DJ Silver, DJ DeVille, and DJ Jeff Retro. And that was in the MGM Grand, right when we landed. Like, straight from the airport, went to the casino, and met all three of those guys. And it's crazy how that trip in particular basically kind of changed the whole like trajectory of like where everything was going.
Change your life.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild.
It's so awesome. So we talked a little bit about this off scene. For me, I would imagine it's quite a rush to be in front of a large crowd of people while spinning music.
Yeah.
Yeah, quietly. Yeah. So what's it like, honestly?
For me, it's absolutely terrifying. It's one of this, like, it is, I hated even reading out loud in class. I loved being a student. I was really good, like, in school, straight A student for years. Reading out loud in class, I hated. I used to actually get notes written, like, from my mother to give to my English teacher and be like, Chanel can't read out loud. And my English teacher wrote one back, like, then she's going to fail. It's like, well, shit. All right, guess I have to. I don't like the spotlight in that sense. I don't like the, you know, the attention, things like that. Like I appreciate being appreciated.
Listen, I'm just one person, but when I was going to the clubs to dance and listen to music, I was looking at that person to take me away. Mm-hmm. I was looking for a 6-hour trip to somewhere else other than my
just
brain.
to escape, to dance, to be in your own world. And it's like, and that, you know, for me, like, it's the amount of people that came out tonight trust me to do that for them. Mm-hmm. That's amazing, you know. But that, even again, for me, there's DJs out there that are like, I don't care. I mean, you can leave if you don't like it. It's like, well, that's not the right attitude either. You know, like, you do have to understand how to play to a crowd and appreciate the people that are appreciating you. Because nobody shows up, then the club's not making money, then you're not making money, then nobody wants to. You know what I mean? Like, it's
snowballs.
It's a domino effect. So. But again, especially having to be like in front of, like, I've had people ask me for autographs, which I thought was crazy. What? I was like, what? I was like, an autograph from who? Me? I was like, I didn't even practice this shit. I was like, here you go. You know, it is what it is. Pictures, you know, I've had people take pictures of me in the airport because they were leaving the same city at the time. And they're like, oh, you played at this place. I was like, yeah. Oh, can I get a photo? Sure.
That's fucking cool. I love it.
It's awesome. But for me, I'm just like.
Well, because I think people like you and myself, we're never going to be able to get outside of our own brain to look at us as anything different than who we are.
Right.
We're just Chanel, Bradley, grew up in X, had parent X, friends X. All the other stuff that, you know, now happens to us is just, okay, cool. I'm still this person. Yeah.
It was when I was out in Vegas for one of my first residencies and seeing my name and my picture in lights in that sense, you know, walking through the casino, and I was like, that's weird. I was like, oh. And this one guy, he wasn't paying attention. He was one that was handing out flyers. And I was going to get a coffee or something. And this guy came up to me and he's like, hey, he goes, what are your plans tonight? You know, you got to go, I'm not going to say the club's name, but he's like, you got to go check out this place. And he handed me a flyer and I looked at it and it was a picture of me on it. It's like, huh.
Yeah, I might be there.
I was like, no. I was like, really? What time is this? I was like, oh, this looks dope. What time is it? What spot is it? It's like, oh, is it a cool place? How do you feel about it? You know, he's like, yeah, it's pretty dope. I'm like, all right. He's like, you gonna come? And I was like, yeah, I don't think I have a choice. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, my guy. And I kind of flipped the flyer over. I was like, you know, he was like, oh my God. And he's like, I'm so sorry. I was like, no. I was like, dude, I don't care, you know, like, and I don't expect to be noticed or anything on the street anyways. You know, I had sunglasses on. I was, you know, wasn't, you know, in DJ mode anyways, but it was so funny because he put two and two together. He calls his other friend over. Look at this shit. Points at me. His friend's like, what? And I was like, how many of those you hand out tonight? You know, like, how's it looking? They're like, it looks good.
It looks good.
Like, all right,
get
cool.
ready.
Yeah, I was like, all right, awesome. And now I go back to
instant nervousness.
I go back to my hotel room and I just sit there and have a break. I'm shaking. I'm hyperventilating. I'm on like the 63rd floor. I was like, I'm gonna lose it. Oh my God.
What a trip, though.
Yeah, it was. I kept him. I was like.
Your whole life, though, what a trip. I mean, you were a minute ago bartending, cocktail waitressing, whatever you were doing, you know, and you've gone through the process of learning your craft. You've had the individuals that are your support system that helped you learn and told you, like, check this out, go to this, you know, try this. And here you are now living the life that you were looking at living a few years ago. Like, that's a fucking trip. Like, you're going to Vegas regularly. You're headlining events. Like, your name is on flyers. Like, people do remember you because there are people out there that constantly go from this what's the word I'm looking for? There's me fucking mind blanking. Venue. People go from this venue to that venue regularly to hear certain music. And sure enough, there's hundreds of people that keep going to the same venues that you're playing at. So you are becoming recognizable. You are becoming this, like, international DJ.
Yes, yeah.
I know you don't. I know it makes you uncomfortable thinking about it, but
I don't. Yeah, I mean, because if you're going by fact, yes, that is true that I have played internationally and stuff like that. But it's like I just still am Chanel that started in West Palm Beach. That, you know, that struggled through all kinds of gigs where I didn't have my software working or I messed up here and there. And it's like, I mean, we all have to start from somewhere, you know, but to look back, like, in hindsight of thinking, like, when I did start, when I first got that first controller and my laptop and I first got that, like, little bit of music, and I remember, and I would try over and over again and I would literally get so frustrated. I was like, there's no way. Being back in that Chanel shoes and then being where I am now, I didn't think back then I would have even touched where I have been in any, like, if you would have asked me, you think you would have played in Vegas, Nashville, you know, Texas, I mean, Mexico, like, but, like, and I mean, like, a lot of states, you know what I mean? Like, I've traveled a lot, and I didn't really think about it until, you know, this other guy, he was, you know, you could kind of tell he was already being a little, like, you know, condescending in a way. He's like, oh, so where have you played? You know, because I've played, you know, and I was like, no, I'm like, that's awesome. Actually, I love that city. Have you been here? And I try to be, again, really, you know, poised and, you know, not overly confident, but at the same time, like, you're not going to bully me. Like, we're not going to do this. And then I started throwing venues at him. Oh, you've played there? Yeah. Oh, what else have you? And then all of a sudden, you know, but like, I'm not one to, like, sit there and create a list, but if you want to sit there and challenge me, yeah, we can talk.
I've already earned my stripes.
Respectfully.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, where you were, you know, 5 years ago to where you are now, I mean, you've done it. You've gone through the process. You've enjoyed the process of learning your craft. You now get to enjoy what they say, enjoy the spoils of it. You know, you get to travel to different venues to play music, to give people a night of memory. Because the people in the crowd, I swear to God, this is what I used to do. I will hold on to those memories of those nights dancing to those DJs' music for the rest of my life.
Oh, absolutely. And it's like,
that's what you give people now.
I think the most fulfilling part of it is, I mean, obviously it's always amazing to have that crowd control, and when you jump, people jump, and you go left, they go left, you know, like, that stuff is awesome. But it's like the next day when you wake up and you get, you know, these message requests and stuff on Instagram or stories, and it's people that are like, thank you. Like, they went out of their way to find you on Instagram and write you and say, thank you for last night. It's crazy because you don't realize that you have that much influence of people. And a lot of people don't see the hours prior to you getting on stage. You know, like, there is a lot of, I mean, the times that I've gotten sick before shows is insane. I've gotten nosebleeds. I've thrown up. Like, I've gotten so overworked and nervous about a show just to lead up to that show. And then now we're here, and guess what? Like, the time is going to come no matter what. Time doesn't stop ticking. So it's like, you know, for me, I would get myself worked up for 4 or 5 hours, days even before. If I knew it was like a major headlining gig, I wouldn't sleep. I'm like, that's not going to help you, you know, but I would be so terrified. And no matter what, though, like, you know, clock's counting down.
The show must go on.
Show must go on. And then you show up and you do it just to play for 4 or 5 hours, you know, whatever your set is. I've played anywhere from 2 hours to 5 hours headlining, you know. Sometimes longer for private parties and stuff, but like, once you're in it, you know, you're on autopilot, you go with it, and then, you know, you get those messages the next day, and it's like, if you only knew what I went through,
right? Yeah,
leading up to that show, like, I appreciate you love it, you know, because
most people won't ever understand what goes on behind the scenes to become what that person is, unless those people are also in their own craft doing what they're doing. Because no matter what the genre is, no matter what the industry is that you're doing, there is so much more work that gets done before the presentation of said item.
Oh, the prep is insane. Yeah.
And
The prep is insane, and then it's like, especially being in DJing, is that you don't, there's going to be error, but there is no room for error.
there's just so much going on all at the same
It's
time.
all, and on top of that, you're listening to two things at once,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and you're wanting to make sure the beats are right. It sounds good. You got somebody tapping you over here. Somebody just spilt a drink. Somebody's holding up a phone that says play Bad Bunny. And it's like, it's a lot of things going on, you know? So,
But at the end of the day, when you get those messages or someone in the airport comes up to you and says, hey, can you take a photo with me?
yeah.
That's kind of like that instant moment of, it was worth it. It was worth all the work I did for like however many years.
That's when I put my sunglasses on and I do a little tear and I'm like,
Yeah, but it was tearing
Feel
me
like-
up like a minute and a half ago talking about it, because it means you care. Like you're not just doing this for a paycheck. You're doing this because you genuinely want to be really good at your craft, to show people in your industry that you fucking did it your way. You also want to give people a memory that like for 2 hours to 5 hours, you were part of their life, that they're going to hold on to that part forever.
Yep.
And to me, that's the paycheck. Like, sure, give me money, let me pay my bills. That's great. But for someone to come up to you or reach out to you through social media and say, thank you.
Yeah.
That's I think that's where it's at.
That's crazy. I mean, and as I said, like that feeling isn't like anything I've ever really felt before. But the thing is, I also had to learn, just as much as there's going to be people that love you, no matter what you do right or wrong, there's going to be people that don't like you.
Absolutely.
The same night, 3 people text me, great set, awesome job, blah, blah, blah. And I could have 2 people that said, oh, it was trash, I hated it, I left early.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that comes with the territory of becoming good at what you do.
Like when you're a perfectionist wanting to like,
I get it.
for me, I was like, no, I want to be perfect every time. And I had the very humble awakening of like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to. And those people that are saying those negative, I do this every day. I give gratitude for the people in my life, regardless if they bring negativity or positivity into my life, because they are teaching me about myself and about others.
Absolutely.
Those are the exact words I use. So even in this forum that I'm doing, which I'm new at, which I'm learning how to do it, and every week trying to get better, there is and always will be those people out there that are going to do this. Most of them behind your back, because they don't got the balls to say it to your face.
That's the best part. I was like, what? I didn't hear you
but
all the way over there. Like, come closer.
But you got to be fine with it and hold on to that and put it in your pocket and just be like, you know what? I got you right here. And I'm going to remember you're doing that. And I'm just going to keep getting better at what I do. So eventually, I don't have to say anything to you,
Exactly.
because it's out there.
Well, as I said, and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and that's one thing that for me, like that's where my skin had to grow thicker.
Well, it sounds like you've
Still
done
scary.
it. It sounds like you've done it. And I know you're still going to be, escalating to even higher things. You took yourself from the norm, which was, working in a job that everyone was doing. You took the leap of faith on yourself and created a brand on yourself. You've gotten into an industry that's not easy to get into. You've proven yourself. You have people reaching out to you to take you to different states, different countries, to do headlining gigs. It's phenomenal. You're still in the process, because you're just going to go to higher levels anyways, but I'm proud of you. I think it's amazing. I just love knowing people that have created something from nothing and got themselves to that level where they're happy, they're sustainable, they're doing what they want to do every day and still taking care of everything at home. So applause to you, because I know you have a lot on your plate besides DJing. We didn't get into it today. As always, the time goes by quite quick on this show. I want to thank you for coming. I've enjoyed the conversation. I'm absolutely going to ask you back in the new studio in the spring and summer, or spring, I should say. In February, we move into the new studio. So I'm going to want you to come by. I have had like 3 interesting ideas for you and other people to join us on another episode. I would like you to bring a couple other female DJs so we can like have like a deep conversation about other aspects of it. But I just honestly, genuinely say like congratulations, because it's phenomenal from where I first met you. I want to say probably about 6 or 7 years ago.
It might have been longer than that.
It could
At
be.
Roxy's
I've
downtown.
been here for 15 years.
I think it's been probably close to like 8, 9.
Yeah,
10
something
years.
like that. But it's amazing to me. You are a headlining DJ. I love following you on your Instagram.
Thank you.
So the Instagram is down below.
Yes.
If anyone wants to DM you to find out where you are going to be in the future weeks or future months, they can reach out to you on Instagram.
Absolutely.
As always, every week, Tuesday at 2 here on the Life Choices podcast, we welcome you back. For all my lifers out there, thank you very much for coming back each and every week. Anyone out there who is new to this podcast, if you want to become a guest on the Life Choices podcast, please email us from the description down below. Like, comment, share, do all that fun stuff. Just down below is how to do it. And we will see you here next week, Tuesday at 2 p.m. on the Life Choices podcast. Much love, everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You are now about
The Journey, Life Choices podcast.